I'm just turning them on. I trust you.
Okay, thanks. All the gold coming in.
Would you mind turning yours on? Oh, sure. I'm sorry, I didn't notice what you were doing. I didn't really pay attention. Love it.
I also read everybody's names up on the top, so I don't have to think about it.
Oh, that is smart. 'Cause I'm like, how does he whip those names off so fast? Experience, right, Brian?
I'm a quick learner.
I don't know that I.
He's on the end.
Yeah. I run into him at pizza station once in a while.
That I know of.
It's not my favorite local place to go. Maybe another quick one. We'll see, huh? I don't know.
I was going by
They're, I've never been Spanish or anything like that. The post I saw on Facebook, their tacos look good. Oh, and then I wrote it on the wrong sheet.
Supplemental ATV UTV when the time comes.
Thank you.
ATV
Oh, okay.
UTV.
Sounds good.
Myself, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Of course. ATV UTV from our requester. She did her homework.
I was looking at that ATV map, like the ordinances and stuff like that. And I'm like, God, I didn't want to be on stage. I get nervous even on town roads. I'm sorry, but just. And I work with a farming community.
Yeah.
Those dicky ding dings zip around on those roads very unsafely too, but. Oh.
All over my mouse and everything here.
It's probably out of the bed.
That's my guess. Yeah.
You hear it? Yeah.
This is thinking.
That's,
Are you sure?
I can. Oh, yeah.
You can read that one?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
I don't need this one. This one's there. Maybe that's what I was trying to do. There we go.
It's a lot of ATV stuff.
This one is.
Why are we trying to
They're very tall.
get ATVs down Main
I'm
Street?
assuming that it's 40-mile-an-hour zone. He wants to put in a 40-mile-an-hour zone.
35, I guess.
Yeah. But I think it's 40 now. It goes from 25 to 40, not 60.
Right.
Assuming that he's probably thinking that we should go down to check the phones. I wanted to go down to 25, but now this won't let us.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Being 6 p.m., I will call to order the Board of Public Works meeting for Tuesday, September 24th, 2024. Roll call is taken. There is one member that is excused. Item number 2 on the agenda is approval of the minutes for the Board of Public Works meeting from August 27th, 2024. Looking for a motion on that, Adam.
A motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Egner, second by Matter. Any further discussion on this item? All in favor by saying aye? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3 is pay request number 7 for the wastewater treatment plant tertiary filters and disinfection project for J.H. Hassinger in the amount of $336,300.
I'll make a motion that we approve pay request number 6 for the tertiary filters and disinfection project for J.H. Hassinger for $437,380.
That,
Got the wrong one?
yeah, them
Okay.
336,300.
Yeah, this is pay 6, not 7.
It's number 8 on your pay, up from the 3 million.
36.
Line 8, yeah. On page 1 of that.
Or if you slide all the way over to the right, it's written in
Yep.
handwritten.
So Tim, are you gonna do it to 336, 300?
Sure.
Okay. So
And-
I'll give an update.
Who's seconding that?
Jeff.
Yes,
So
sir.
during the budget presentation, then I'll give you an update of the project.
Okay.
I have a picture, so.
Okay. We have a motion by Engelhardt, second by Mitchell. Any further discussion on this item? All in favor by saying aye? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4 is the 2024 wastewater treatment plant project Clean Water Fund loan request number 5 in the amount of $349,541.50. Looking for a motion to approve that request.
I'll make a motion to approve the Clean Water Loan Fund request number 5 in the amount of $349,541.50.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Matter, second by Sandebeck. Any further discussion on this item?
So if you see in the request, so this is number 5, that it also includes the $13,241.50. That's engineering fee from Town and Country. So we're gonna have you sign the rest of them and get the reimbursements in to the state or to DNR.
Any other discussion? All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5 is review of quotes for Hickory Park Path Reconstruction Project.
You want me to set the table first?
That would be great, yep.
Okay, so there was an RFQ, request for quotes, received 2 of them. One was from Pro to Pave, the other one, Pavlaki Paving. As you can see, the Pro to Pave was $168,847, sorry. And then Pavlaki Paving was a total of $217,895. We budgeted $160,000 for the project. What I recommend is we would take out the $24,895 for restoration, because we might need some of that. In your packet, you can see this is the total path going around Hickory Park. So we're gonna pulverize it and then roll it to, proof roll it, and then take out any bad spots. The bad spots then would be, we would dig out 10 inches and then put in a base material, and that's per truckload or per ton of $45. So we would, figuring there's gonna be some bad spots. Also with the project, in the quote is doing a doghouse, a catch basin in the front at the intersection of Jackson Drive and Hickory, where we're trying to capture that water before it goes over or into the soccer field, right by the nice Hickory Park sign, and then the flower bed for, what is it, I forget what Kelly, the Citizens or beautification. And then also on the opposite end, or the southeast corner of the park, the other soccer field, that's a low area, so we're gonna put another berm in between the ball diamond and the soccer field and try to capture that water and get it to a catch basin, which is like directly west of the soccer field, or in the middle of the soccer field to the west. So we will stop the water crossing the soccer field, and hopefully the field would dry out.
Is there a storm sewer in the middle of the park, or where does that drain to then?
That drains to Juniper.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty shallow, so even trying to put in drain tile along the east side of the big soccer field, it's tough. We're looking at it, see if we can do that. We're still gonna shoot grades and see if we can pitch the water out of there, so.
Does that make the ball field then unusable?
I'm sorry?
Where the catch basin and the berm is, does that make the baseball diamond,
Right, it's in between the baseball diamond and the soccer field.
so people could still use the baseball field?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's existing, so I mean, so it's gonna be in between to build it up. So by doing all that, so then the total bid price would be $143,952, but then I would like that you would allow the excavation to a depth of 10 inches, and then for the So this is not to, it might exceed that price, what I'm getting at, 143, but we do have, but we're not gonna go over the 160, which has been budgeted.
So would it make sense to make a motion that it not to exceed 160 and include our costs for rehabbing reconstructing the area?
Yes.
I will make a motion to recommend Budget and Finance and Village Board approve the quote from Pro to Pave in the amount not to exceed $160,000 for the entire project, which includes $143,952 for Pro to Pave and $24,895 used for restoration and excavation of bad spots in the project.
Second.
We have a motion by Heckner, second by Engelhardt. Any further discussion on this item?
Just a question, you put a $160,000 cap in there, but the 143 for the quote and the 24 for the other work is more than the 160.
Correct, with the math. But I mean, we only budget 160, so some of our, so we're gonna do the restoration and our labor gets lost. So in the overall scheme of things, we just don't do some other project and we're just at the park doing restoration. So that's where you save the money, having our crew do it.
So are we still accurate then for the not to exceed 160, the way I broke it down?
Correct.
So you don't think that the 24, that you won't need the 24,895 for that
No, not that high.
with doing it internally?
Correct.
Okay, okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor by saying aye? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6, update on rate increase for Jackson Sewer and Water Utilities.
Yep, just to give you an update, so I thought once you do the simplified, that PSC gets notified, but they do not, which is odd. So per state statute, they get notified once you supply the rate in the docket, so I was off by like 4 days. So we're still gonna raise after pleading with them at the water conference, I have pictures, but we'll just move on from that. So, so the plan is to increase the 4.1% for sewer on October 1st of 2024, and then water would not, sorry, would be January 1st of 2025, would go up 4.1% per PSC. So they've been notified, that's what you have in your packet. Now they're okay with it. There will be a flyer that goes out with, that's in your packet of the new notice of rate increase. What I would recommend then, that maybe at the November meeting, we would look at putting a flyer in. Sorry, I didn't have this in here, but if you remember, we're still behind that. We're at $5.88 per 1,000 gallons on the sewer side. So if we're gonna follow that chart, we need it to be over 6. So I would recommend then in January 1st that we would do another 4% or even an 8% increase on sewer side. And then we could that wouldn't take effect until April 1st then of next year.
There is an error in that new notice. It says January 1, 2024. That should be January 1, 2025.
Oh, yeah, okay, in the notice, yes.
Yep, the new notice of rate increase, yeah.
Yep, we will change that.
We don't need any action on that, do we?
No, just to let, unless you don't wanna do it, then you would need action.
Everybody good?
Yep.
All right, item number 7, discussion of ATV, UTV routes in the village of Jackson. This was put on the agenda as a request from one of our residents, which she is here tonight. And we can, Chief or Jen, do you want to tee this up a little bit as to what we had researched and stuff like that already?
Sure, I'll tee up the topic. Myself, Chief Oskel, Engineer, Public Works Director Kober, and we've reviewed the general request under the premise you've relayed to us, President Heckendorf, of can the Village of Jackson viably consider incorporating ATV routes to be allowed within the village limits. I think what is important to include in conversations before I hand it off to Ryan is two big concerns exist. One is suitability for the road. Are the vehicles themselves suitable to be traversing our village roads? And second, the safety component to that and enforcement of what regulations we have in the village already. And so that's the approach we took as staff. We know that the process may ultimately come with a recommendation from you all. If you feel the information you gather tonight leads you to a decision one way or the other, it's important to make sure the committee is at the same point tonight, because if you do move it on to the village board, we would then proceed with instructions on how an ordinance could potentially govern this topic and be adopted. And so with that, I'm gonna first yield to Chief Oskel to talk about the topic. And Brian, if you'd like to also chime in, please do.
Can I just ask one thing quick? So our ultimate goal here tonight is to either A, if nobody has any appetite for it, it just dies. Or B, if we agree that it's something good, at that point, then we would forward it on to village board for approval, to then direct staff to do more research and come up with potential ordinance and things like that.
Sure, that is essentially where we're coming from. At this point, our ordinance would need to permit it. We have that home rule authority, as I understand, on our roads.
Okay.
Good.
Chief?
Good evening. So this is obviously not something that the police department is proposing for you tonight. We're simply here to answer any questions that you might have. We've done quite a bit of research. We've spoken to other communities in the area that have approved ATV, UTV routes. We've reviewed ordinances from those communities. If the Village of Jackson does arrive at a point where we're entertaining an ordinance, I do have some specific suggestions that I'd like to see in that ordinance. But I understand maybe we don't need to dive that deep tonight. We did speak to the DNR as well, so we have some good understanding of how enforcement would work. And again, we're just here to answer any questions and.
Thank you. Brian?
Sure, in your packet, you can see that there was an email that the chief had asked, and I was talking with Scott Schmidt about this, and he said, I just want to warn you that Wisconsin DOT is totally against it, of having them. So you can see the reply in the email, that's all I want to point out, so. But anyway, yeah, I think it works. So you can see them also in your packet was the map from Washington County, and Washington County. If you look at it, there's a movement coming. It's West Bend, us, and Slinger are the only ones in the southern portion of the county does not allow the routes or ATV and UTV on the roads. So.
So first off, do we have any questions or comments from the committee?
Quick question, how do you make sure that it's a licensed driver on that ATV?
So it would be just like any other vehicle on the roadway. If we have contact with them, we would suggest that the ordinance contain language that requires them to have a valid driver's license to be operating a UTV. So we wouldn't know unless we had contact with them
Okay,
for a traffic stop or something like that.
and they don't necessarily have a license plate per se, or do they?
They do. They're required to be registered
Okay.
with the DNR, and they have to put a sticker on the machine as well as display the license number, typically in the form of a license plate on the back.
And a reason for a potential stop would be somebody that looks too young to be driving it?
Yes, absolutely. So I would also recommend, like I said, a valid driver's license so that you have to be at least 16 to drive. So if we saw a 12-year-old driving a UTV, which may be legal in other parts of the state, it would not be legal here. So that would definitely be a precursor for a traffic stop.
Okay. And are we like differentiating between ATVs and UTVs in this? Like, right, is it like one and the same, those, the 2 versus 4-seaters? That's really what we're talking about?
They would,
They're generally tied together.
yeah. Yeah.
And just to propose an idea, I think with the request itself being sort of reliant upon a bit more of information tonight, it may be more comfortable for the committee to work off of more information from the requester, if you guys would be willing to do so.
Yeah, I'm good with, Debbie, you want to step up to the podium? Make sure the mic is on?
Hello.
There you go.
First of all, thank you, President Heckendorf, for allowing me to do this. My name is Debbie Kurtz. I was a past village board trustee and happy to do so. One of the reasons I wanted to bring this to the attention of the board is because I now am a UTV owner. And on Jackson Drive, if you go out of town here to the north, 0.9 miles from my house on Wilshire Drive, there is an ATV, UTV route in the town of Jackson. Right now, we can't get out of town without pulling a trailer up to Washington County Fair Park or somewhere like that to be able to go and use our vehicle. These are up and coming. These are not going away. And I know that the outlying areas, I believe Aaron has either talked about this or they're getting it. Town of Hartford, town of Hartford, I know Saukville, I know, there's a lot of places that are doing this. And in your information, there's a map on one of those, let's see which one. I've tried to put this stuff together for you guys to help you understand the whole deal here. On the WATVA economic impact slide, you can look in the back of here, and on the back of here, it will show you in 2017, it'll show you the yellow were the trails in 2017, and the red is now, or was the roads. Do you see it in the back of there? And now in 2000, I believe it's 24, all this red are roads that you can go on. You can drive on all of these roads. Obviously not the village of Jackson. So it's growing and growing and growing. I agree with Chief on safety. Safety is absolute first and a must. Tonight, what I really wanted to do was to just give you this information so that you could review it. I've spoken with and been working with Randy Harden, who is the president of the Wisconsin ATV. It's WATVA Association, and Tim Rohr. He's the president of the Kettle Moraine ATV and UTV Association. They're both very involved in this. They've done a lot of research. They are in Iowa tonight doing some safety and some other type of teaching. Otherwise, they would have been here. And what I'd like to see happen, if we can, is next meeting, they would be happy to attend, and they would be happy to put on this slideshow for you and talk about the economic impacts for the village, the safety issues, and whatever other questions that you would come up with for the next meeting. So that's really where we're at, is we wanted to at least get this out there to you so that you could at least review it, take time with it, really go through it, write down your questions, anything that you have, any concerns or anything, and hopefully we would be invited to the next Public Works meeting and we could talk about this again. So that's really what I was looking to have accomplished tonight. So just to be open-minded about this, please don't be closed-minded, just be open-minded about it. There would be a lot of work involved. This is not something that happens overnight, you know, it takes time. So I wanted you to know that I've also put together, this is the first page, Wisconsin Legislative Council Act. That's the state statutes that you can review. The second part of this was just a copy of an ordinance done by another county, town, whatever you want to call them, just to give you an idea of how they've done this. And then, of course, the 2023 economic impact statement. But I just, like I said, I really wanted you to be able to at least take these home, review them. and put your questions together, and then maybe at the next, invite us back to the next meeting, and they would be happy to come, and, because they can certainly further elaborate on all the extensive stuff.
Questions for Debbie?
I don't have a question specifically for Debbie unless it's for whatever, but I do have a couple of questions.
Go right ahead.
Wondering about. So, first of all, in the information that we got, it says from the state, please note that we have issued very few ATV route orders statewide. And yet you're saying that all of this is all ATV routes now?
Yep. Yep, ATV and UTV, the pink, the red is,
The pink.
pink, red, whichever you prefer to
Yeah.
call it. Those are all legal roads to drive on.
So how is it that the state is saying that they've issued very few and yet this is like almost all
I
of the
don't
state?
know.
I
Okay,
could
that-
probably answer that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you,
The state has jurisdiction if the speed limit is 40 miles an hour or higher.
thank you.
So the village has jurisdiction on Highway 60, except for that portion that's 40 miles per hour, right? So if it's above 40, you have to go to the state and ask for their permission. My understanding of this proposal, and it makes sense to me, is that everything east of industrial essentially would be open to ATV, UTV routes, which would open up about probably 97% of our residential properties. But it would not include the 40-mile-per-hour zone on Highway 60, or obviously anything that way, including the roundabouts, which was also a safety concern for us. Does that answer your question?
I think so. Maybe more along the second question then was, so we're talking about making all of the village streets now ATV eligible, but not that section of 60
Because of the speed limit.
because of the speed limit
Nothing west of industrial.
of industrial. Okay.
Like Highwood P, no, that would be out.
So, all right, I don't want to step over, but along with what you just said, I know where you live on the corner by the park. So if you have to drive, how would you get to this next set of,
Jackson Drive,
so Jackson Drive comes through and then you can pick up the trail?
0.9 miles from my house is the trail,
So you don't
is
have to-
the road.
you
It's
don't have
not
to
a
zigzag.
trail per se, it's the road. It's an 8, you can drive on that road in the town of Jackson. 0.9 miles from my house. I would have to trailer somehow down there instead of just being able to
So
drive.
you'd head north on Jackson Drive.
Correct.
And then you don't pick it up, so, well then, Chief, what you're saying is anything over 40.
That's a
is-
25 mile, excuse me, that's a 20-mile,
State highway.
25 mile an hour
That'd be town, so Jackson Drive is.
is a
Is
village
town-
road.
Is a town road, and then until you, even on county roads, you're able to, that's why I gave you the map. So the county is allowing, even on county roads. So, even, there's no limit on speed limit on county.
That's probably what also answers your question, Randy, is, some counties have just opened up all of their county roads to ATV, UTV.
Are there any stats from the state of Wisconsin about how many, injury accidents, fatalities have occurred with
Yes, and-
UTVs?
yes, and that's why I would like for these two gentlemen to be able to come back next month. They're in Iowa teaching right now, to be able to come back and share all of these stats with you.
Okay, and these stats would come from where? From the state of Wisconsin?
From the state of Wisconsin, yep.
The DNR has a rolling
Yep.
website of, I believe, so far this year in Wisconsin, I believe there's been 25 or 26 fatalities. But most of those are in the northern region of the state. Higher speed, more trees,
Alcohol,
alcohol, more trails rather than road routes. So that's where most of the fatalities, most of the accidents are coming in.
you're gonna have accident fatalities no matter what you have. If it's a motorcycle, if it's a car, if it's you're just gonna have them. It
Oh, I
just,
agree.
Unfortunately, it happens.
But your chance of surviving in a Chevy truck versus a UTV when a semi's coming down the road at 35 miles an hour, you're more likely to survive in that Chevy truck than a
I
UTV.
understand that.
Randy?
So would that section, I mean, how would a ATV user know that that section is not ATV eligible?
It would have to be
Marked.
posted.
Would it be posted as not ATV?
Right.
Be similar to the signs we have on Western when you come into the town.
In it, I would just say, you know, it is ATV, UTV. In communities that we spoke to, you mostly are seeing UTVs.
Yes, I would agree.
And the younger people aren't buying the UTVs because they can't afford them. These are $30,000 and $40,000 pieces of equipment. These are not cheap little, you know. So the more responsible people, I work for Cedar Creek Motorsports, and the people that come in and buy these UTVs are not 20-year-old kids. They're not 30-year-old kids. They're 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and even 80-year-olds. So, I mean, they're, for the most part, they're responsible people. So, you know,
So just a clarification again. So we, given what we're thinking about in terms of ATV routes, the state wouldn't even be involved in that, just our ordinance.
That's correct.
The only time the state would get involved is if we would petition them to open up that Highway 60 route. And that sounds like it's like not gonna happen.
no. Nor do we really want it to.
Right, I agree, yeah. You know, Debbie's talking about going north, you know, North Jackson Drive and stuff like that. It does, because the town surrounds us, all those roads are ATV, UTV routes, so, I mean, that would open up everything around the village to ATV and UTV usage.
Correct.
I have a quick question too.
Yes.
Is there a high interest for this? I mean, in the community itself? I mean, I'm not a ATV owner or UTV owner.
I can only speak for myself.
Okay, I just didn't know if you,
I have neighbors
anyone
that have
else
said they would own them
locally.
if they could get out of town with them. But, you know,
I was just curious. I have
yeah,
no idea.
if they could get out of town with them, rather than to buy a trailer, a $3,000 or $4,000 trailer to haul them around on, unless you're gonna go up north with it. I have neighbors that would love to own one, but they can't get out of town with it. I mean, you could leave Washington County Fairgrounds and go all the way up to Fond du Lac, or all the way up to, you know, you'd be all over the place. Lemira, you can go all over the place, but we can't get there from here. 0.9 miles. So, just something to think about. Just wanted you to think about it.
Yes,
Chief, with all the research that you did, so I own a boat, and I'm old, so, well, not old, I'm older. But, so with that, I don't have to take a boater safety course, but my daughter, who was 12 when I got the boat, did. Now, I understand that you're gonna do 16, so you're gonna make them be a licensed driver. Is there something else that, are you gonna basically exclude any, like, there's a safety course in the pamphlet? Would you require them to have a driver's license and the safety course? Or if they're a licensed driver, that should be enough?
I believe the state law covers the operation of the ATV, UTV and requires them to take that safety course if they're born after, I want to say 1988.
something like that, yeah.
January 1st, 1988.
So that's a state law.
Okay.
Similar to boater safety and snowmobile safety and stuff like that. Yeah, you got, it's an online course that you take, yeah.
And I can tell you that at my age, I don't have to take it, but I just took this 2 weeks ago. It was a 60-question test, and I passed with 6 wrong, and it was the best thing I ever did was to take this course, because I learned so much stuff, even at my age, that I had no clue about. So I think it's really important that everybody take it if you're gonna be out riding one. So, it's just my opinion.
So I know you said those guys aren't available tonight to be here, obviously, but I mean, do you think they'd be available at the next village board meeting?
Oh, sure.
Because then, I mean, if we have an appetite from the board level here tonight to push it forward, we could just move it forward to the village board meeting, not have to come back here again next month, because it just, we'd be going over the same things to the same people, that, you know, if they could be here at the village board meeting, we could handle it at that point. So I guess feedback from the Board of Public Works members, is this something that we want to pursue? Or is it not something that we want to pursue?
I'd like to know a couple of opinions from staff, what their opinion of it is, like Chief, for example.
So
Are you in favor of having this approved or not?
I'm not opposed to it. And other communities that we spoke to, including the city of Hartford, that's had this in place, they haven't had any problems. So I don't anticipate we're gonna have 5,000 UTVs driving on the roads, but
Okay.
I guess that was a question, to the question that I was having in my mind is, how many UTV, ATV riders do we have in the village that are concerned about having this on the road, being able to use that stretch? Is it, we know there's one, how many more are there? Is this really an important thing for the village residents? Or is it gonna be viewed as more of a nuisance having the ATVs on the road, and the few that there may be, and the traffic is trying to move around on the road in and around an ATV?
I would think the fewer, the easier. That's just my opinion.
The fewer,
The fewer that are on the road, the easier to get around, I mean, for other people. So I don't know how many people in this village, I mean, how do you take a poll and find out how many people in this village own one? I don't know.
The DNR would have that information.
Pull the license data.
Yeah,
licensed.
yeah.
Can we get that info?
You still have to go with speed limit anyway.
Should be.
That would be my
queryable.
statement, would be that if, I mean, you're gonna follow the rules of the road no matter what, so it's not like you can do 10
Right,
and then you're gonna cause a traffic jam
Right.
in a 25-mile-an-hour zone. You're gonna have to follow the speed no matter what. So I don't see how there's that impact of people going around or slowing traffic down.
the speed limit is a speed limit, right.
Well, that's a 25-mile speed limit. People can drive below that. It's okay to drive below 25.
I mean, they can't impede traffic or create a.
I'm not necessarily against it. I'm
Ours
just
goes
asking
45,
questions. We have
50 is
one person here who has the interest, but are we putting an ordinance in place for one person? Or are we putting an ordinance in place for 50 to 100 people that may want this particular thing?
I think what might be more so at play right now is, yes, we have a representative behind the request, but this is a request that is going before a lot of municipalities within the same 2 to 3 month time frame from an organization that is county-wide and not necessarily confined to the boundaries of the village. I think it's a perfectly legitimate point to raise, Trustee Matter, and it's actually a point that many other communities are raising in a more paused or lengthened review process. When I first heard the request come through, yes, it is through the lens of one person that's a village resident, but I do know that it's coming from a place of a group that is sort of county-wide. It would also bring others into the village that live just along the fringe areas of the village. So it is it's mutually beneficial for both riders and establishments here in the village. And so I think of it in more of a borderless concept, but we regulate our roads and that's our place at the table. If it is up to this body and the board to decide if we want to take measures like public informational or public forum sessions, community surveys, there's a much lengthier and data-driven way to approach the topic. But at a minimum, this first conversation was going to be where we start, because from a staff perspective, if we're saying we're not necessarily worried about the safety component, and we're not necessarily worried about the adequacy of our road network, as I've learned from Brian, then the pragmatic thing to say is, what do you think the best thing and the best decision is to make for your constituents?
Right.
And I don't mean to pass the buck, but knowing it's a subject matter that's impacting all of our neighbors, I do think that there's enough movement on the topic to bring it forward now, even without maybe a packed room. I think if that's a parallel to draw. I yield back to you guys.
Another question?
Yep.
Brian, what do you think we'd spend putting the signs up, ATV routes, whatever? We don't have a route, we just have to we have to put signs up to say you can drive ATVs, so what do we spend on that?
Probably the sign, I don't know, they're probably $200 a piece, or I don't even know, 100. I mean, it's just a small,
Right.
and you just need it on, if we're not gonna allow, usually you put the sign on where they're not allowed. So they'd be at the intersection of, Industrial or Glenbrook and 60, and then, and that would be it. I mean, cause you'd be able to go, or P, we would put them on certain areas. We'd work with the chief on where we need them, so.
And that's something, Debbie, I don't know how in tune you are with those guys. Is that a local club that they have?
One is the Kettle Moraine Club is local.
Yep,
That's Washington County.
Okay.
Period. And then, WATVA, that is Sheboygan.
okay.
Sheboygan County. And
So like up north, the way it operates is that the clubs handle all the signage. So ultimately, I think if we were to proceed with something, that may be a stipulation that, the club gets involved and picks up the cost of doing the signs. Because all signage and trail maintenance and all that kind of stuff up north is all handled by the clubs.
They have done fundraising for that.
Yeah,
Yep.
yep.
Okay, 'cause we-
They've had a ride that has left from Fair Park before, and
They actually have one coming up on
Yeah.
October 12th, leaving.
yeah.
Another huge ride. There's usually about 400.
I guess if we do move this forward, it would be nice to know if you or somebody from those clubs could find out, which I'm sure they can, because the clubs probably have a pretty direct line of communication with the DNR, is to find out how many registered UTVs, ATVs there are in the village of Jackson and maybe the surrounding town of Jackson, just to give us an idea of what kind of impact we could see from people coming into the village and using their machines to support local business as well.
Agree.
Wouldn't the town of Jackson probably have a lot of that info since they just went through approving all of it?
Depends upon what their process that they went through.
I'm just saying like of a source.
I'm guessing no.
You don't think the town figured out? No?
Does it
I hope
cost-
you're not watching.
Cost money? No.
I don't know. I don't know. I just know that they have passed and there's 8 signs out there. That's all I know. And I want to get out there. That's
I would
what
think they'd
know.
have town info.
I'm not necessarily saying that we should poll, but I would be curious about the area businesses, the Jackson businesses, if they see this as a positive for bringing more people to their businesses through ATV travel and things like that. I mean, I don't know if it would be, how it would be worthwhile, but I would be curious to find out if they would see that as a positive.
Well, I think that's why it's important, you take some time and you review your economic impact of 2023. And it gives you an idea of what kind of revenues are brought into the villages and towns. It will help you at least to understand a little bit. This village, obviously, we don't know. I get that, but it will give you at least an idea of the outlying towns and villages. So, what I can do is I can contact Randy. I'll contact Randy tonight and Tim Rohr and see, I'll get the date for the next board meeting and see if I can get them both at this board meeting. At the board meeting, so that they can put this presentation on and go through the safety aspects and do all this economic impact stuff for you, so that you can have a better understanding of how this works and how it'll impact possibly this village. So it's not just, I want you to understand too, being a past village board member, this is not to me just about driving 0.9 miles to get out of the village. This is also, I've been a taxpayer here for 25 years and I'm gonna continue to be one, and I'm happy to help contribute. This will help contribute. It will just help contribute, and I would leave it up to the professionals to help you better understand how it can do that. I'm not the professional. So, I'm just the messenger tonight.
If that's the case, it should actually come back here rather than to the village board. That's actually, our job is to say it's a good idea or a bad idea.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like the opportunity to read everything that we were just handed, 30 minutes ago. And we'll also get some of the safety data on registered UTV riders.
I would agree with that.
You okay if we table it to the next Public Works?
You want to do that?
Maybe
That's kind of
benef-
what my plan was, but it's your plan.
Yeah, yeah. Jen, you had something?
I was simply gonna anecdotally say that we can encourage village trustees to also be in attendance if they'd like to
Yeah, that's a good point.
receive the information presented that night. And just a reminder, in the committee structure, we provide the opportunity for citizens or staff to address committees at the end of a committee meeting. So there is still chance to receive some input from residents if this is of interest to be there at the next Board of Public Works meeting.
And Debbie, maybe, you know, you could work with the clubs or something to put something out that, to maybe get a better feel between now and then from residents in this area, if, you know, what kind of interest there is in having this happen. I don't know if you use social media or what, but, I mean, there's a lot of avenues to use to kind of gain some info on the amount of interest that there is.
And what about, when is our next quarterly paper? When is our next?
October 15th.
Can we put something in there about that? A question in there for the people who do read it? Can we throw a little blurb in there? I read it. I don't know who else reads it, but I do. And just ask, I mean, just to throw it out there and ask that question and maybe tell them to email in or something with their ideas or.
I don't know that it's necessarily a village topic at this point, other than feasibility. So I think, you know, there's a couple well-attended Facebook pages that people monitor in the village here numerous times a day.
Well, the thing that I was thinking of was the interest part.
Right.
How many people would have an interest, at least in it, period?
Yeah, but I mean, you could put a post out there on those pages and say, hey, contact Debbie and, you know, message me or whatever and say, hey, do you have interest in this? And would you use it if it would become available?
Okay.
That's the way I would go about it.
Do that.
I think you're gonna, honestly, I think you almost get more traction on that than you would in the newsletter.
Okay.
So with that,
That's it? I know.
Yeah.
The guys have it written down. They're ready to come and,
yeah, so Noah, thank you for bringing this up. Thank you for the information that you've provided. And with that, I will refer this to the next Board of Public Works meeting.
thank you.
Anybody else have any other questions? All right, thank you. Item number 8, 2025 Public Works Equipment Program.
So I'm looking, in your packet was the spreadsheet they gave us, so, this past year, 2024. Thank you, I have a picture in the budget presentation, for the loader that we purchased. And, this year, we're, proposing, replacing, a 1-ton truck, the brush, the chipper, and then a mower on it to get us to $196,000. So on the bottom of it, you can see where it says 2018 through 2020, 2021 to 2025. That's when we kept on buying a patrol truck or a 5-yarder, and you can see the age of the fleet, how it keeps going down. But then you can see how it doesn't go down as fast. If you remember the patrol truck, we were on the list to get one, and hopefully that we'll find out this fall if we're still on that list. Mr. Engelhardt can help me with that. I believe it's the Alice transmissions now are the issue that somebody told me that they can't make them fast enough for the trucks.
It's
So
good.
it's what?
Also might have a problem, but actually the industry itself is now having a problem selling things, so it should come.
Yeah, okay. So, so hopefully we can get on that list, and then that's where you see in 2026, on the top of the chart is, another patrol truck for 260,000. So these are just ballpark numbers. We'll adjust them once we get to that year. So then the other part of the on the bottom, you can see the 1-ton trucks from 2021. We had 58, and if we replaced one in 2022, it went down 6 years. We just keep four trucks in the fleet, so we would get rid of the old 5 once we get this new truck. So
So I'm reading that right, 105 grand for a chipper?
correct.
So I know certain times of the year we use it a lot and like storms and stuff like that. Is that something that we've ever explored sharing with our other municipalities at all or no?
When the other municipality needs it, that's when we need it. So,
I know.
yeah, that's a tough one to share. So. I mean, now we'll be in 2 weeks, October 7th, we'll be out chipping probably, every week with bag pickup. And that's something that, yeah, it's, we didn't, I forget when we purchased it back in 2011. It is 14 years old. It just got, rehabbed and, new blades and everything else. It needs to work. So, I mean, that's just like any of our equipment. We'll talk about that in the next agenda item. But, yeah, if that's something that if the budget is tight, once we get after this meeting and talk to CIP and everything else, that would be something that we could hold off and then push it to 2026.
So ultimately, you're just looking for the go-ahead to present this and try and work it into the budget.
Correct. That's all it is. This is telling you a 5-year, as it says on the top, this is why I took that off, but this is the 5-year program of the wish list of public works equipment. It doesn't say that this is what this is what we need on it, in order to do our jobs. But if funding is not available, yeah, we use the equipment that we have.
Is there a trade-in value to that? You said it's 2011 it was purchased. If the new, let's say is it a brand new one for 105? Is there, you said you had new parts, new blades, new everything on that chipper?
Yeah, that's it. Right.
Some kind of value to that? Or
Sure, there's value to it, and the best, we look at the trade-in value, and then we turn around. If we don't get the trade-in value, we'll sell it outright to somebody then, or on Wisconsin surplus, and usually we get more money than doing it that way than a trade-in.
Any idea what that might be?
I mean, that one we purchased for $35,000. It's amazing how they went up in price.
Oh.
So that's why I was shocked that it was 105. So I mean, this is just a budgeted item, so we'll go and sharpen the pencil, go back. This is what we have now. We might go back to a Mobark. This is a Cummins engine. It's a Vermeer chipper. So I mean, we would just, this is, like I said, this is a budgetary number. Once we get into it, we would look to see if it's 105 or not, or if we can get it cheaper and fulfill the. This one has been with us for 13 years, and I think it's been in the shop twice. So I mean, it chipped a lot of chips. So like a woodchuck.
How many chips could a chipper chip?
Right.
Is it the highly technical term for that?
What's that? Chip or not? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do we need any action on this, or is this the
No,
report?
that's just
Okay.
information, this, place. So then, Jackie will hit it. I'm just impressed. This is probably the most people in the room in my career that has listened to the Public Works, budget. So I mean, that is really, it's just, thank you. Thank you for the applause. So we'll make this quick, and I know we got a meeting after this. So, progressing in that and moving forward, onward, and we talk about this every year on it, but it's about maintaining the quality and service to the citizens, and that's try to always tell the staff that we're here for the citizens. So we're a service department, so that they don't forget that in anything that they do and interact with the citizens of Jackson. Next. So, so the village engineer, you know, the department in that, you can see the stacks in that. And then we talked about, you know, getting an assistant, and so we finally went to advertising. If you can go to the next slide. So it's tough to read. Sorry if you can see it on your screen. You're probably, are we broadcasting in your screens? Yep. So you can see that this is the organization of Public Works and Utilities. So you can see I'm on the top, and then it goes over to Streets and Parks, which is Russ, and we finally have 4 people under him now. We're full staff, which is kind of cool. The water utility, we have 2 now seasoned people of Luke and Justin, and Mr. Kreitzinger is the water supervisor. We're looking where it says open. That's not 2 positions, that's 1. So we're actually advertising right now for a water sewer operator to float between the 2 departments, to go back and forth. This is in the budget, so I mean that you had approved this last year. So we're finally getting to this, so it's kind of cool. The other thing, the coolness of the utility was always trying to achieve this. Utility does utility stuff. So what we had was 1 person from the Streets and Parks do weekend rotation at the wastewater treatment plant. Now they're at, we have trained them. They're a CPO, certified pool operator. They run the splash pad during the summer. Now we have water utility, the 2 people working weekends at wastewater. So what that did was now there's a 4-person rotation on weekend rotation and holidays for both and in the parks, and that we'll shut down the parks now probably right before Thanksgiving. And but I mean so then you're not stuck with you know, Thanksgiving or Christmas, or you can rotate in the years on it. So if you keep going to the right, then if you're looking at the screen up here, then it's like I said on the screen before, we're actually advertising for village engineer / technician. We do have applications. It'll be interesting. We did kind of lessen the criteria of having a professional engineer or even EIT, engineering and training, but we'll see what type of a person. Really, I'm looking for somebody to do AutoCAD because we're really behind on mapping and stuff. And then on the last one is utility clerk, and then we have assistant utility clerk. We are looking for an assistant utility clerk, something part-time. Diane Lemke's been with us. Carla and I were trying to figure that out, probably at least 10, 12 years. And she's ready to move on, and she likes to do, not ATVing, but motorcycling and everything else, goes on big trips. So mostly we're always in trouble when Carla's on vacation, Diane's not available. So we're trying to find somebody else to fill that role. Diane might still stick around, but I'm trying to convince her that it might be time to retire. So next slide. So I always, Jen and I always kid about this, and I always thought that this dawned on me because Mr. Reamer, this is your slide. It is. Yes, we talked about this at the water conference, and I always thought, because I was.
Board of Public Works doesn't always get finance advisors in the room.
Right.
There you go.
So I always asked Jen, I said, am I losing my mind? Am I not working fast enough? Or it seems like I'm always behind. And it dawned on me, this was, you know, in August, saw this slide. I just wanted to, that we, in the last 5 years, so there's a map, and I'll probably redo it once. And we did this in like between '04 and '07, where it's amazing, all the subdivisions that we put in, it's on the map, and I'll redo the map. But just look at that, we doubled in value in 5 years. So congratulations, everybody. I mean, it's like, wow. I mean, no wonder we're retired. So next slide. Yes, so I'm not getting old. It's just that we're really busy. So completed projects, we had the resurfacing project, DOT. There's some glitches yet we're working out. Like the signs are too low and people keep calling me walking down the sidewalk, they're 6'1" and they hit the sign. So, we're working on that. The roundabout, I have a picture of that. County Trunk Highway P is, the north half is done. South half will be done, probably the first or second week in October. So it's getting there. We have to pay about $12,000 to the water main in the intersection of Sherman Road and, County Trunk Highway P was not located and not put in the design. A little disappointed, but we'll move on from that, from the engineering firm, not Cedar Corp. So, but anyway, so the water utility is gonna pay about 12 grand, for the adjustment of the storm sewer instead of, paying like over 100,000 to relocate the water main out there, so. And then the last one, I forget what, so it's, street lighting project, okay. So, next one, so, you can hit the next. Thank you. So this is, it doesn't give you justice, but I'm glad that the gas station owner was, very grateful of the DOT always shutting him down, changing his, routing pattern, but, we made it through it, so, but I mean, I hope this project started back in '08, challenging the DOT to actually upgrade the roundabout, or sorry, the intersection, and they kept on telling the village, it's our responsibility. Thank you for some of the people or most of the people in the room here. We created it as a TID district or in a TIF. It got financing behind it, and ta-da. Why I took this picture on this end, coming towards you, the ditch line, if you remember, it would always rain, when it would rain, that would always flood in that corner, and now it doesn't flood anymore. So I mean, what a great intersection that you have now.
And this was also a recipient of the bipartisan infrastructure legislation money, 80-20 split
Yes.
for construction. So
Yep.
taxpayers can be happy in knowing 20% of the construction was the village.
Correct.
All of design fell on us, but
Yes.
we got this intersection improvement for a steal.
So roughly, yeah, I would say over and all, the study in it probably costs us about $750,000 to, or 750,000, so. Just wanna tell you that, the guys that, so at this time last year, we just started the streetlight project on Highway 60. And, I don't know if you knew this, but I just I took a picture of the guys. They hand lifted every pole onto the trailer to get it out there and then tipped it up. And it was, interesting. Next slide. So, other things, completed projects, so we got Maple Fields, subdivision phase 2. The people that live in, Twin Creeks now can drive all the way on asphalt, all the way to, Maple Road. Morning Meadows, we had the last leg or the north cul-de-sac that needed to be finished, and now that's completed. Oaks of Jackson, stormwater management pond compliance, I'm giving up on that project. So anyway, it says we have 2 more ponds to measure. I said I will go and measure them, but anyway, I will have a report to you next month, because I'm gonna strangle somebody. So I just wanted this is the original plan, so, we're working on Outlot 8, which is what do you call it, the orange or the yellow. But if you look on the outside, where the duplex is on the pond, the pond on the left side, all the way around on the outside has foundations in now. And, congratulations to your administrator, everything. I mean, this is fast track. If you look at a development, well, you know this, being a lender, usually you have a plan for your rate of return is for 5 years. And this rate of return, this might happen in 2.5, which is incredible. So congratulations. I mean, the village should pat themselves on the back and for the county for next generation housing. Next slide. So then the other thing is Ridgeway Drive, Chestnut Court reconstruction project. It was a good price, but knew that, we're pushing that off until next year. We probably investigated probably half of the homes out there. and the stragglers, so there'll be a letter sent out this week to the rest of them to encourage them to have us go and televise the rest of them. We'll set up all the plans, get ready, work with Cedar Corp to finalize the plans, and then get ready to do go out to bid probably January or February of next year to get a number again. Hickory Lane reconstruction project, next slide. So sewer pack, so for free they came in, so the blue dash lines on the plan is the designated wetlands now, so we know where the wetlands are. Bremer is out, they surveyed that now, we got data points from sewer pack, so in the next couple of weeks here, probably mid-October, we'll sit down with them and we'll start laying it out and come with a master plan. If I don't have that ready for October, it'll be November, and I'll show you what we're actually gonna do and get ready for the first, bid that too in January or February, hopefully. So, next slide. So this falls back into our urban planning. So, the two red spots, if you looked at the slide before with the wetland and everything, it kind of falls in. So now we're gonna look at what we can, since we have the urban plan, we can go back to the DNR, talk to them, try to be, think outside the box of what we can do in this sensitive area. So it'll be interesting discussion. Next slide. So overall engineering budget. So what I did was only 20% of the general budget is for my salary and engineering tech or the assistant, and then so it only had a 2% increase. Next slide. You can keep going. Next. So trash and recycling. Next slide. So the contract's up next December. I know this is the same slide, but I just want to keep so people remember this. The village, we own the trash. The properties of the village own the trash and recycling containers at no charge. We went back and forth. We provide the new containers now again. Pickup days are Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Dumpsters are collected on Tuesday. Free pickup for village-owned buildings for the first dumpster. We'll probably start negotiating this right away in January or February. I'll sit down with them to, she's giving me thumbs up.
Performance reviews are soon.
Yeah, so if you go to go to the next slide. Yeah, so if you, next. So this is the trash. So if you look at the top, what the number was, the 2,352, and then it's 75 stops more, it's a rough, and then it's a 4% increase. And then the next slide, what I really want to do is, if we renegotiate the contracts, and if you look at it, there's invoice, we had 17 stops. So that's it. And what the 17 is back in 2012, when we got rid of apartments and other businesses, there was people that was in the contract that we served, that the board at the time made a motion and said, hey, can you provide us the service? And then we renegotiated the contract and we got the better price. And so we started at 89 and we're down to 17, and it would be nice if we could get rid of the other 17 and we just pick up residential and get rid of all the businesses and everything else. So that's a goal I'm trying to work on. So next slide. So if you on this one, if you look at spring cleanup day, the 20,000 or the 30,000 that was budgeted last year was in two different line items. When I wanted to, so talking with the village treasurer, we actually created a line item at 20,000 to actually put a line item so you can watch how much we spend every year on spring cleanup day. So it's probably around like 16, depending on how many dumpsters we have in that. But it was adjusted, so the budget increase was a negative 1%. Next slide. You can keep going. Next is parks. So I don't know if you pickleball people are very picky. So, get a lot of phone calls on, I think the court turned out nice and, the sitting area. We have screening up now. You can, and, nice walkway, and we did that. This was last year, actually going back in the pictures. I took this today, but, the dedication was back in November 16th, I think we did it last year. So we had the presentation. So next slide. Just so you know, so when we put the pickleball, so everybody understands this. So when we did the pickleball court, in order to stripe it or do the final color, we needed to sign off on the warranty. So we had flooded the pickleball court. God, you can see it doesn't, there's no water standing on it. And we went around with this is scientific, engineering scientific, that you take a nickel, at Jefferson, and you go around and that it's the height of the nickel, and that was there was a topping that was put on, and sure, but if you look, there's a line in between where the two seams are, and people that suffer from vertigo, they have a tough time on this court. So that's one thing that we're trying to work through. I think a lot of people have accepted it now, and they just play on a different court. So, what's that?
Are you talking about the half-height wall, the subdivision?
No, I'm saying on the
Courts
court, when
themselves?
they move,
The
when
color of
they're
them.
aggressively,
Oh.
moving into and attacking, I said, just stay in one spot, give yourself 2 paddles, so I'm trying to work through the details.
Feedback you've gotten.
yes.
Got it.
So I think we're almost through. But I just want to say in the budget, the phone calls you get every day. So, I had in the budget 50,000 last year in capital projects. One thing was I encouraged that we should probably still do this is, we kind of have the Hickory Park all planned out. This would be something with music in the park beer garden, that to redesign it and come up with a master plan. You did your dog park, we did Hasmer Lake. There is 20,000, except for we had the 50,000, we spent it on splash pad and everything else. And we're probably down to 20,000. We're gonna do other things with it. Next slide. So that's the other thing, even the crew, we put up tarps on that for beer garden. They actually came to me and say, hey, let's put up siding in it. And I'm like, no, let's just put up tarps. But I really think I encourage the village to do a master plan of the park. Kelly has this in her budget. So to redo the skate park and it's equipment that was bought in '04. So I mean, it's a 20-year life expectancy. We keep patching it up. You can just go through the pictures here. So you can see the patches on it, but it's about time you replace that. So, go back one. You can go next. So then here the park budget is minus 6.5% because I reduced the unexpected, the capital project thing down to 20,000. That's 30,000 out of it for unexpected surprises that we have, especially with the splash pad. Next. And that one needs you can go next one. There I'm working on trying to get a phone. We need an emergency phone, so I'm working with Midwest Fiber to get fiber in there. Anyway, so what we need to concentrate on this map, I know it says 2021 on it, but we didn't do any project that affects our roads, but we should really work on the yellow. That's the key, and the yellow on the southeast section of the village is Hickory and Aspen, Hawthorne, and Linden. And then going north would be Ridgeway on it, and then you get to Center Street and Industrial Drive. Next slide. So the crew's really happy, thank you. This should speed us up with plowing cul-de-sacs, and that has the wing on it. Maybe next meeting, if you want, I'll have it sitting out here. You can take a look at it. So everything works now. The joystick and everything else is how we ordered it. Next. So with the street budget, why it went up 6% was salt was increased at $3.48 per ton, but we do liquid chlorine on the, we pre-treat on that, so, that's a cost savings to us, and then we've been reducing our tonnage, so we have so we have to order 600, but we have another 100, ton in reserve, so we, only have to get 600. Next slide. So an overall general budget on that is actually, the budget comes in reduced at, 2.33% or $36,620. Any questions on that? Future projects. One thing, since Jen, we came down to the building, hit the next slide. So we keep buying equipment, which is bad. We got a sweeper, loader, we're keeping the old loader. We're starting to sand, but good. We're running out of room of heated storage. And this is something that doesn't have to be done right away. We would stack the trucks, so in your slide, so the wall, you can see where the tools are, and that wall would stay, and we would bump out the wall where the trucks are running into. And then next slide. So this would be, you would do a rectangle, and you would stack your trucks in. So it'd be a simple addition to it, but the problem is that simple addition, because it has to be sprinklered and everything else, you're talking anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million for that. So you could piecemeal that, you could do that too, but that's something to think about in CIP. Again, just like your equipment would be, it's not a want or need, it's something that, we would park it. It's sort of like our old garage that we had. We would park stuff in the aisle and just move equipment, but sooner or later you're going to have to add on to the building.
And that addition to this building is not just to better space what we have, but it's also to, in the future, meet the demand. We're going to need to add a plow route. Brian has probably told me this since my first year here, and we just add hundreds of homes in the meantime. But in our 5-year forward-looking plan, which the board is actively a part of, and we will be switching over to in tonight's special meeting, this expansion is going to be in the future, the addition to this building. It would be an appropriation between the general fund projects, the sewer, and the water, because all those funds benefit from it. And it would also be followed by another employee and a 5th plow route. So this is all like a story book we're putting together financially for the next 5 years, and this is a big part of it.
Yep.
Meeting the public works needs for the village.
Slide. So wastewater utility, next slide. So we're meeting the discharge permit. That's our new addition. I have a picture of that. We started the project with a clean water fund loan, and then we're gonna UV disinfection instead of chlorine. Next slide. So, and then the 4.1 rate increase will be October 1st of 2024. We talked that tonight. And then the future of plant versus village growth. We'll talk about that too. Next slide. So you can see the old building is the smaller brick, new building is the split face block. Tried and match brick in the past, and I just said we're doing split face block and tried to match the mortar. So the project's moving right along. They're putting the roof on. The filters are supposed to come end of next month. The one thing they'll be put in place, the one thing that we'll find out Thursday, we have a meeting at 9, where the electric equipment, the VFDs and the control panels and everything else to run it, they're probably back ordered. So we'll find when that is. Next slide. This is the contact chamber for the chlorine and that. So we do this until October 1st. After October 1st, this will get washed, and then there'll be a building put on this with the UV, and that's coming in January, as I said. So this is the last time we'll do chlorine at the plant. So that's pretty cool. It's high hazard. If somebody always saw my presentation down at the plant, it's always the triple bottom line. You always look at economics, environment, and society, or try to be a good neighbor and keep your smell down. Next slide. So we had a meeting last week with Town and Country. If you remember, we went through painful meetings, a couple couple years ago, redid the, facility plan. And, you know, that was, if you look at it, that was, after coming up with the facility plan, that was, $31.9 million of improvements on it, and them are the phases. We're in that one, like the top phase, but we didn't, finish on, the control building, which is where the offices are. So next slide. So after talking, and one thing that we did, and congratulations too, you know, a couple of projects that we did was the Main Street reconstruction project for sewer. Gave everybody a new lateral, and then also came back and hired, or they came back, was Great Lakes sewer from Green Bay. They televised the two interceptors. We had done it back in 08, and we did it again, and they went and they patched it all, and we're actually seeing such low flow to the plant right now. Our peaking value, if you look at the monthly reports, so we peak at, you know, maybe only at 2.5, even with all the rain that we had, and the next day we're under 2 already. And that's, you know, with all the leaks, and we're really tightening up the system. So you always gotta look at, so anyway, so we had the meeting, and we looked at what are the high priority things, instead of doing the full-blown plant and hard to swallow the 31.9 million. And we came up with 3 projects that really should be done, with the aeration, the service building upgrade, and the RAS pump station, and you're only at 5.3 million. So I mean, that's, and my take on it is, and this has happened back in 95 and 97, when the plant when we had RBCs and we switched the whole plant to activated sludge. The plant was built too big, and the pumps, and we didn't have enough flow to it. And that's why I'm worried about, by doing this too, of upgrading the plant and sizing it appropriately. You might build it too big, and now then you want the system to leak in order to get enough flow to the plant for the plant to work properly. So if you go with this method, you can match the plant of what the growth is. Next slide. So 2% increase on the wastewater. So you're meeting the discharge. We're meeting discharge permit. We're going to complete asphalt by the storage building. That's in the budget this year. There's new debt that it's only from right now. This budget only has the 60 and P. So next year it's going to have the Clean Water Fund loan debt, 40% funding of the assistant engineer's position. And then the last is the topic is, you should really, that's the 5.3, you know, we're in a CIP. We need to go out and still maintain the collection system. So it's always this balance between investing in the treatment plant to treat what's coming down there, or getting it to the plant of the collection system, so that there's this balance there. And I think by having this new revamped idea of not going to the plant, that we can do more things in the collection system. Next slide. So that was wastewater. Any questions? Sorry. I'm just gonna keep rolling when we begin. Okay, water. So, good thing, no well inspection until 2027, so that saves the utility money. US Cellular and Verizon, new antenna ring. I have a picture of that. They're finally here. Inside painting of the white water tower. So we started that program back in 27, and all of a sudden in 2018, US Cellular and Verizon came and said, hey, we want to do this ring. So new administrator, well, and then you got involved. I mean, been working on it for a long time. Yep. 6 years later, they're finally putting the ring on. The two were fighting. 4.1% rate increase. It's water utility. January 1st, 2025. So then so the next one would be January 1st, and then you do one more simplified, I believe, right? And then we're gonna do the whole, I call it bona fide, but the whole rate increase for it. Next slide. I don't know why that came in sideways. I don't know if it wasn't supposed to, that's good. So if you go and you see the monopole out there, that was the holdup of the whole project. Verizon needed the monopole next to the tower, US Cellular did not. So them two were fighting, it was down in Chicago for a whole year. I don't know, finally the monopole came. This is the ring that's going on the tower tomorrow. So, what we're negotiating out right now is, painting. So painting's gonna happen to the tower on the outside. Been holding off or talking with them, trying to get them to tell me how much, painting is gonna take inside the touch-up. And we want that in cash, and we're gonna put that towards next year. So I'm meeting with somebody tomorrow that did another study, and we're gonna take the Dixon study from 2017, compared to the two, and see what we need, you know, in 6 years, how bad, or 7 years, how bad the inside the tower. We have not done anything to the inside the tower since it was built in 1995, so it needs to get done. So you're talking anywhere like, people are telling me like 100 to 125,000, but we have it in the budget, so. Next slide. So the other thing, smart meters, today was disconnect, hopefully hopefully you still have water. So, next slide. It's a neat little system, so we do have 7 of these, we have, one in the, system right now. The other 6 are gonna go in after, in the next month, pushing the staff to get this done. So we had to disconnect 31 people. I don't know if we'll do all for 31, but we will find, there's another list that, like duplexes and that, where we can't shut people off. But say the person in the duplex, one pays, one doesn't. If we can put that smart meter on the one side, the person that doesn't pay, we will put it on that side. This is an automatic system, it works with Wi-Fi. You hit the button and the meter shuts off. You can turn the meter back on to let them take their medicine in it, and then you can shut the meter back off, so until they pay. So it will really help. That organization chart that I showed you on one of the first slides is to keep the staff at a reasonable number. If we can use, you know, electronics and everything else to help us do our job, so it's cool. So still pushing it. So 0.7 under 1% increase of the budget. No well inspections. Like I said, we're gonna do smart meters. The only debt in the utility is Highway 60 and County Trunk Highway P projects. We're funding 40% of the assistant engineer position, and then the big thing that we're gonna do next year is paint to take, so inside. So, next slide. Thank you.
Very thorough. Oh, wow.
Pretty high tech there.
Any questions for Brian on any of his presentations? All right, item number 10, Director of Public Works report.
So you can see in the first page on, like I said, the max, it's amazing, you know, in April, we were at 0.22 for flow, but, you know, it's just, the water that's coming to the plant is minimal now, so, or reduces right away. The other thing I didn't talk about is, I did mention it with the ponds, so we got two more pond reports to do. I will, we'll find out where we're at, and hopefully we'll get that done, so I have the reports to you next month, so. Otherwise, I think we covered everything else.
Any questions for Brian on his report? Looking for a motion to put the report on file.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Matter, second by Engelhardt to put the file, or report on file. All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 11, citizens or village staff to address the Board of Public Works. Anybody wishing to speak? Seeing none, I will make a motion to adjourn. Motion by Heckendorf, second by Mitchell to adjourn. All in favor by saying aye? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.